Imagine booking your dream escape. White sand, jungle waterfalls, volcano views, and then this headline hits: Canada issues travel advisory for Costa Rica. Wait, what? Costa Rica? The Switzerland of Latin America? The country known for peace, ecotourism, and sloths? Well, in June 2025, that's exactly what happened. Canada updated its official travel advisories, not just for Costa Rica, but for Panama, Argentina, Puerto Rico, even South Korea. And guess what? If you're a Canadian traveler, these advisories aren't just background noise. They can reshape your entire trip, from insurance coverage to border access, from booking decisions to how you plan your daily routes. That little label, Level 2, Exercise Increased Caution. Yeah, that's got real-world impact. In today's video, we're diving deep into how Canadian travel advisories are shaping, and sometimes complicating, travel to Latin America. We'll look at the countries impacted, what's really behind the warnings, and how smart travelers are navigating the gap between headlines and reality. So if you're a travel lover, a snowbird, a digital nomad, or just a cautious explorer planning your next adventure, stick with me. Hit that like, subscribe, and ring that bell, because we're about to decode the advisory system and give you the facts that actually matter. Let's get started. Let's get one thing straight. A travel advisory isn't just a polite government memo. It can literally determine whether your travel insurance covers you, whether airlines let you rebook, or whether a tour operator cancels your trip entirely. When Canada issues a travel advisory, whether it's a Level 2 Exercise Increased Caution or something more serious, it creates a ripple effect across the entire travel ecosystem. Take this example. Let's say you're planning a trip to Panama. You see, it's under a Level 2 advisory. You brush it off. After all, who's not at Level 2 these days, right? But your travel insurance fine print says, no coverage for destinations under government-issued risk advisories. Boom. One pickpocket, one delayed flight, one missed excursion, and you're on your own financially. But it's not just about money. Some travelers see these warnings and panic cancel, even when the risk is minimal or localized. Others ignore them completely and end up in situations they weren't prepared for. So what's the truth? Travel advisories aren't meant to scare you. They're tools, blunt ones, sure, but they give you a baseline to prepare smarter. They're like weather forecasts. Would you cancel your beach day because of a 20% chance of rain? Maybe not, but you'd at least pack a poncho. Coming up next, one of the most surprising countries on Canada's latest advisory list, Panama, and why things aren't as tranquil as they seem. Panama, land of the canal, emerald jungles, rooftop bars in Casco Viejo, and until recently, peace and quiet. But behind the Instagram reels of yachts and toucans, something's been bubbling under the surface. In early 2025, Canada issued a renewed Level 2 travel advisory for Panama, specifically calling out civil unrest and political demonstrations. What's driving it? A cocktail of anti-corruption protests, mining disputes, and rising frustration over economic inequality. In November, and again in April, thousands took to the streets across Panama City and provincial hubs like Colón and Santiago. Roads were blocked, clashes with police escalated, and at one point, Panama's own tourism board urged travelers to exercise caution around government buildings and transport hubs. Here's the kicker. A group of Canadian backpackers got stuck in a protest zone in Chiriquí. Their shuttle couldn't reach them. Their Airbnb host had no way to assist. And because there was no active emergency, insurance didn't cover the delay. Now, is Panama dangerous? No, but it's complicated. You can still lounge on Caribbean beaches in Bocas del Toro, or zipline through Boquete's cloud forests. Just know where the protest zones are, and don't go marching toward chanting crowds with your GoPro. Pro tip, always check local news the day before traveling between cities. And if a major protest is expected, reroute. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Next, another destination under Canada's microscope, Costa Rica. And whether its recent advisory means paradise is losing its shine. When people hear Costa Rica, they picture sloths, surfboards, and eco-lodges with infinity pools. It's long been marketed as the Switzerland of Central America. Peaceful, stable, pura vida. But in June 2025, Canada issued a refreshed travel advisory, and it raised a few eyebrows. So, what changed? Canada's advisory highlights two main issues. a rise in petty crime, and an uptick in natural disaster risk, specifically related to volcanic activity and the hurricane season. Let's unpack that. First, crime. Costa Rica remains safer than most of its neighbors, but tourist-targeted theft is rising in urban areas like San Jose and coastal zones like Limon. We're talking bag snatching, phone grabs, and hotel room thefts, mostly crimes of opportunity. Then there's the earth-shaking part, literally. In 2025, Volcan Poas and Volcan Turrialba have both experienced increased seismic activity. Combine that with a more intense than average rainy season, and you've got flash flood risks and landslides in popular adventure zones like La Fortuna and Monteverde. Does this mean cancel your yoga retreat? Absolutely not. It means don't leave valuables in plain sight. Use hotel safes. Register with your embassy. And maybe skip that volcano selfie if there's steam coming out the top. Because, let's be honest, nothing ruins your zen like a surprise evacuation. Next up, let's head south to Argentina, where economic storms are causing travel tremors of a different kind. Argentina, home of tango, Malbec, Patagonia, and one of the world's most unpredictable currencies. If you've ever paid for a steak dinner with a stack of pesos thicker than your passport, you know exactly what we're talking about. In 2025, Argentina is back in the economic hot seat, with triple-digit inflation, currency controls, and soaring costs for locals, but oddly enough, some great deals for travelers. Canada hasn't issued a high-risk alert for violent crime here, but the travel advisory flags economic instability, periodic protests, and potential disruptions to public services. Translation? Your trip could be affected in ways you don't expect. Not by danger, but by inconvenience. ATM outages, sudden transit strikes, skyrocketing prices for fuel, food, or even basic essentials. There's also a wide gap between the official exchange rate and the blue dollar. Unofficial but commonly used. It's legal to exchange at banks. But travelers looking for the better rate often turn to unofficial vendors. And that can get sketchy fast. So what's the move? Bring US dollars or euros in small bills. Ask your hotel or a trusted contact where to exchange safely. Avoid protests, especially in Buenos Aires near government buildings. And keep updated on local strikes via your embassy or hotel concierge. Because in Argentina, your biggest threat isn't danger, it's the dollar. Next, a surprising entry on Canada's radar, Puerto Rico, and why it's raising caution flags despite being a US territory. Puerto Rico, technically the US, practically the Caribbean, and often mistaken for a tropical extension of Florida. No passport needed for Americans. Great beaches, vibrant culture, and yes, Canadians have been flocking there too. But here's where it gets tricky. Despite the laid-back reputation, Canada recently flagged Puerto Rico with a Level 2 advisory, mostly due to crime and infrastructure instability. Now, if you're thinking, wait, isn't Puerto Rico basically as safe as Miami? Well, not quite. There's a perception gap. In recent years, Puerto Rico has struggled with high homicide rates, especially in urban areas like San Juan and Bayamón. The majority of violence is gang-related and not aimed at tourists. But petty crime, especially in crowded areas and nightlife zones, is a real concern. Then there's the infrastructure piece. After Hurricanes Irma and Maria, recovery has been ongoing. And in some areas, power outages, road conditions, and limited emergency response still affect both locals and tourists alike. But let's not get dramatic. Puerto Rico remains an incredible destination. You just need to be selective. Stick to well-reviewed accommodations. Avoid wandering side streets after dark. Use registered transport, not random street cabs. And check local weather alerts during hurricane season. Power can go out fast. Bottom line? Puerto Rico is worth visiting. Just don't let the sunshine lull you into skipping common sense. Next up, Mexico. Yes, it's complicated, but the truth about Canadian travel to Mexico might just surprise you. If there's one destination that constantly lives in the gray zone between tropical escape and trending on crime alerts, it's Mexico. And yet, guess what? Mexico remains one of the top 3 destinations for Canadian travelers in 2025, even with travel advisories in place. So, are Canadians ignoring the warnings? Not exactly. They're just learning to read between the headlines. The truth is, Canada's advisory system doesn't treat Mexico as one country. It's broken down by state. And that matters. While regions like Guerrero, Colima, and parts of Sinaloa carry stronger warnings due to organized crime and gang violence, tourist-heavy zones like Cancun, Riviera Maya, and Los Cabos are generally listed as exercise increased caution, not avoid travel. Still, the media loves a good scare story. Cartel clashes in border towns makes headlines. A couple getting sunburned at an all-inclusive? Not so much. Here's the deal. Violence in Mexico is real, but location, timing, and behavior matter. Don't go exploring back alleys at 2 a.m. Avoid ATMs on the street. Use one's inside banks. And yes, skip the rental car road trip through remote states, unless you've done your homework. Pro tip, bookmark your resort's state on travel.gis.ca, not just Mexico as a whole. That's where the real info is. Coming up next, Colombia. It's come a long way, but is the advisory stuck in the past or still on point? Colombia. For decades, the name alone was a red flag for travelers. Narcos, cartels, kidnappings, it was practically a no-go zone. But here's the twist. Colombia in 2025 is not the Colombia of the 90s. In fact, cities like Medellin and Bogota have become some of the trendiest urban escapes in Latin America, full of art, nightlife, and digital nomads sipping oat lattes in rooftop cafes. So, why is Canada still issuing a Level 2 advisory? Because while the country's progress is real, so are its risks, especially if you don't know where you're going. The advisory points to rural areas controlled by armed groups, drug-related violence, and the occasional resurgence of political unrest in some provinces. Most of the danger lies outside the tourist bubble, but let's be clear, petty crime in cities is also a concern. In Bogota alone, reports of phone theft and express kidnappings, where you're forced to withdraw cash at ATMs, have popped up even in safe districts. So what's the takeaway? Colombia is a country in transition. You can have an amazing experience if you stick to well-known neighborhoods like El Poblado or Zona Rosa. Avoid back streets at night. Don't flash your phone like a travel vlogger on day one. And always, always check local alerts before heading into rural areas. Because in Colombia, it's not about fear. It's about knowing where the caution tape actually belongs. Next, what are Canadians actually doing about all this? Are they changing plans or just clicking accept risk and booking anyway? So, with all these warnings floating around, you'd think Canadians would be hitting the brakes on Latin America, right? Wrong. In fact, according to recent 2025 data from major tour operators and flight search platforms like Skyscanner and Hopper, bookings to Latin American destinations are actually up, especially to places like Costa Rica, Mexico, Colombia, and Panama. Why? 3 reasons. Canadians know how to travel smart. Latin America is more affordable than Europe in 2025. And let's be honest, people are just tired of winter. Disconnect is real. Travel advisories might trigger momentary caution, but they rarely lead to mass cancellations, unless it hits level 3 or 4, like we saw during COVID, or political upheavals in places like Venezuela. In fact, a recent Ipsos survey found that 71% of Canadian travelers check travel advisories, but only 26% say it changes their plans. That's like reading the nutrition label on a chocolate bar to say, and eating it anyway. So what does this mean for you? It means Canadians are getting better at interpreting risk, not reacting blindly to it. Travel forums, YouTube vlogs, Reddit threads, people are seeking first-hand info, not just headlines. But here's where it gets tricky. One area where advisories can still hurt you, even if you choose to go, is travel insurance. And that's what we'll unpack next. Don't skip it. Your wallet might depend on it. Here's something no one tells you when you click Buy Now on your next flight. Your travel insurance might be worthless if you're not reading the fine print. And when it comes to Canadian travel advisories, that fine print could make or break your trip. Most Canadian insurers, including big names like Manulife, Blue Cross, and Tugo, have exclusions tied to travel advisories. If the government warns against non-essential travel to a country or region, and you go anyway, your coverage might be void. That means no claims for theft, accident, trip cancellation, or even emergency medical. Yikes, right? Now here's where it gets murky. Many destinations on Canada's Level 2 list, including Costa Rica, Panama, even Colombia, aren't off limits, but they're flagged for increased caution. And each insurer treats that level 2 differently. Some will still cover you. Others, only if you purchase the insurance before the advisory update. And a few, they'll cover your broken ankle, but not your stolen passport if the theft happened in an area noted as high risk. Pro tip: always confirm your policy's stance on travel advisories. Ask directly, am I covered if I go to country under a level 2 advisory? And consider adding a rider or upgrade for risky destinations. Because no one wants to discover their insurance is useless while lying in a hospital bed, holding a bill the size of a used car. Let's wrap this up with a mindset shift. Travel advisories aren't roadblocks, they're road signs. Let's talk smart travel in 2025. Let's clear the air. Just because a country has a travel advisory doesn't mean you need to cancel your trip. Zip up your suitcase and start binge-watching travel vlogs from your couch instead. In 2025, smart travel isn't about avoiding risk. It's about understanding it. Travel advisories are like traffic signs. They don't mean stop. They mean look both ways. Here's how savvy travelers are adapting. They're checking government advisory websites before they book, not the night before departure. They're using interactive maps to pinpoint high-risk regions within safe countries. They're buying insurance that actually covers level 2 destinations. And they're tuning into local news and embassy alerts, not just what shows up on the global feeds. Even better, they're packing smarter. Things like offline maps, encrypted wallets, backup ID scans, and contact cards with emergency numbers. Because being informed isn't being paranoid, it's being prepared. And when you're prepared, you travel differently. You walk into a city knowing where to go and where not to. You respect local warnings, understand cultural context, and avoid turning yourself into an easy target. So no, a travel advisory doesn't mean stay home. It means go with open eyes, not rose-colored glasses. Next, let's bring this all together with a quick recap and some parting thoughts for your next big adventure. So, what have we really learned? That Canadian travel advisories aren't doom and gloom headlines. They're tools, imperfect, yes, but useful, that help shape smarter, safer travel decisions. We've looked at destinations like Panama and Costa Rica, where civil unrest and natural hazards exist, but don't cancel out the experience. We've unpacked places like Argentina and Colombia, where the challenge is more about context than chaos. And we've explored the gap between what's reported and how Canadians actually travel. Spoiler alert, you're still going, just more cautiously. The key takeaway? It's not about fear, it's about awareness. Knowing how to read an advisory, knowing how to react. And knowing that with the right prep, even a flagged country can offer you the trip of a lifetime. So next time you see that yellow triangle or red banner on travel.gc.ce, don't panic. Pause. Read the details. Cross-reference with local news. Ask your travel insurer the tough questions and plan accordingly, because you deserve unforgettable adventures, not unexpected emergencies. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into global travel intelligence. Speaking of which, we've got more travel insights, destination breakdowns, and safety tips coming your way. So make sure you're subscribed and notifications are on. You won't want to miss what's next.